Aaron, just made you host. I'm jumping. I realized I have to start them all. Okay, so next time I start them early.
Okay, I'll let people jump on in before we get rolling. Now, John, are you the one who's running the show here?
Of course.
All right.
I don't.
Well,
I guess.
I will monitor chat for you, and check the Q&A and whatnots.
Okay, that would be terrific. And Aaron, I just sent a quick message to my my presentation co-host Ken Box, my technical director, because we are only able to join just a second ago. So
Okay.
I don't know if he's seen the join button light up now. Anyway, so welcome everyone. Thank you for joining today. We're going to give everyone another minute or two to join because my co-host isn't here. It's okay.
How is everybody today?
I'm getting over being sick a little bit myself.
Uh-oh.
Better than I am. I don't know. I took my daughter to a volleyball tournament in Detroit this past weekend, and I'm afraid that maybe someone passed something to me. But
Oof.
so it's okay. Fight.
There we go.
Hey Ken, glad you joined.
Yeah, happy to be here.
And we also, I guess I'll start off just to say real quick too, I was under the impression that we had a 30-minute session, not an hour session. So that's okay. There's nothing wrong with ending early, but I also want to just mention right off the top is let's cultivate a conversation anywhere we can. We thought we'd run through a few new items and highlights from ISE. I know, Higher Ed AV did some coverage of ISE, but it was an exciting and fun event. And then we can open it up to conversation. So we don't have to kill the whole hour. We can give people time back in their day or to join the lobby again, but we can also keep it going as long as need be. So.
Well, John, and you know me, once I start talking, I don't shut up. So we'll be fine.
But no, yeah, you're right.
We'll be fine.
I can see what's going on. Okay, I'll tell you what, since we're 6 minutes in, let me pull up what we're going to show today and share my screen. Let's do this. And I'm going to make this whole presentation big. Zoom screen to share. And then let's hit play. Okay. Can everybody see what we're presenting, what I'm presenting?
Yep.
You got it.
Terrific. So I guess let me start a little more formally with an introduction. My name is John Hewlin from Crestron. My role with Crestron is now on the marketing side, even though for 7.5 years I worked with colleges and universities and K through 12 throughout the Midwest and the Ohio Valley area. And I'm joined by Ken Box, who's the technical director now for education. And Ken, do you want to add any other highlights?
No, I would just add that I'm one of 2 technical directors dedicated to education. So I cover the western half of the country. We've got some folks that may be from the eastern half of the country, and that technical director is Greg Coddington. But either one of us can help you out if you have educational questions regarding Crestron.
Yeah, good point. So Greg Coddington is Ken's counterpart. And we actually, I think, have a couple other people from the Crestron team maybe joining as well. So we can put you in touch with the right people. But, ISE is something we wanted to highlight because, it is one of the largest shows in the world, if not the largest show in the world. And while we have InfoComm coming up, I mean, that's in June. And as many of you know, it's difficult to get away in June. So, we thought we'd highlight a few items, as well as talk through anything else, and also show off a couple new resources that we have here as we get closer to the end, including something to update everyone on product availability. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But let's jump in for some highlights, and with some highlights from ISE. So Ken was actually in Spain, and I did not get to go to Spain, but we had an amazing booth, and this year's booth was it was extremely focused on experiences and use cases rather than the little black boxes. We always feel like it's can be difficult. Of course, we're on right now with Education's Technology Managers Alliance, I mean, higher ed, and so a lot of us do like to see some of the black boxes. But when we start thinking about C-level and IT groups and everybody else, like it was just being discussed in the lobby, sometimes it takes this visualization of what they're going to experience once they walk into a space, rather than seeing any line diagrams or this box goes to that box. It helps it make it much more realistic and much more of significantly feeling close to what they're going to experience. And Ken, talk a little bit about how you would describe our booth.
Yeah, so it was probably, well, I think it's one of the largest booths we've ever built in Crestron history. The picture doesn't do it justice. We actually took up multiple booth spaces. It was roughly the size of 6 tennis courts, which is big for a trade show. And like John said, it was the first year that we actually did experiences where we built spaces. We built a full hotel room, we built a full conference room, we built a mixed use learning center, we built a wellness center, we built phone booths and living rooms and all kinds of even a command and control center. And so what John and I wanted to do was talk about some of the technology we used in the booth and kind of walk you guys through that. But it was a lot of people. This was the, you can go ahead to that slide, John.
Okay.
I'll enter into, yeah. This was the experience that I actually helped build while I was there and why I went to Spain. We built the Sightline experience. And for those of you that didn't see it at InfoComm or didn't see it at ISE, the Sightline experience is based around the idea that we need meeting equity. We need the people that are participating in the space to have the same type of experience as the people that are outside of the space and vice versa. So with the Sightline experience, this is a design base where we pair together our intelligent video solutions like Automate VX and our One Beyond cameras. We pair them together with some audio that's in the space, and we do automatic camera switching, but then we also surround the space with displays and cameras so that no matter where you're looking in the space, the remote participants are always within your line of sight, which is why we call it the Sightline experience. You'd be surprised how many times I actually had to explain that. Well, why is this Sightline? Well, it's because everything is always in your line of sight, right? That's pretty obvious from that standpoint. So the idea is that you have multiple cameras within the room. We built the experience with 7 cameras and 7 displays, and we were able to do presentation tracking. We were able to do multiple layouts. But not only do we build this conference room space using the One Beyond cameras and the Automate VX, we also built a mixed use space as well with the same technology. So we set up a kind of mock classroom, if you will. Some of you might call it an active learning classroom or a flex classroom. So we had movable tables that were based off of, we would do microphone placement, and we would track those tables and that table movement and be able to use the auto presenter cameras and things like that. So it's not just for conference rooms. So the Sightline experience isn't just for a conference room. It can be for flex and mixed use spaces. We see it going a lot into divisible spaces as well, which can be tricky, right? Especially if you're trying to do those production value camera switching where you're not seeing a whole lot of panning and tilting. That's the great part about the Automate VX product, is that it looks production. It looks like you're using a production video switcher to do that switching. And these are, of course, completely flexible. A lot of the technical directors like myself will help you design these spaces using our intelligent video designer software. Which, by the way, for those of you that are curious, I'm going to leak this, and I don't think I'll get in trouble for this, but our new designer certification will be up and running soon. So for those of you that like to use the One Beyond designer software, we are going to have a designer actual certification coming through our Crestron Technology Institute, our CTI learning portal. You can get certified on that design. And then you can do those designs yourself and vet those out. So lots of great things coming from CTI on that front as well. So Sightline was composed, like I said, it was seven cameras total. It was PTZ cameras for the most part, and then one auto presenter camera that would track you across the front of the space. And people were pretty impressed with the accuracy of it. Of course, we built this room, you know, a little temporary structure in the middle of a trade show. So not everything was perfect, right? The audio is not always perfect because you get a lot of acoustic noise coming in there, but people were pretty blown away with the quality that we were able to get out of there. So,
I had
yeah.
I had a quick question on this system.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the Automate VX specifically, like, do you actually have to? I know it's like, you know, a 2RU chassis or whatever, or 1RU chassis. Does that actually, can that be fed out via USB to a computer, or is it something that like the actual conferencing is all inside that unit?
So the server, that's a great question. So the server itself actually outputs SDI. So the server is just handling the camera logic, and it's bringing in information from your DSP or from your microphone. So it depends on which audio system you're using, but we're looking at RMS values of the microphones. We're looking at gating of the microphones. We're looking at a lot of different things, as well as some AI built into the Automate VX system. But the Automate VX system is, at its core, it outputs SDI. And then what we do is we take a converter and we go SDI, HD SDI to USB 3.0. And that's your conversion. So yes, you could take it into, in this case, we brought it into 2 different Flex systems where we had one Zoom system running and one Teams system running, but you could take it even into a standard lecture capture over USB, right? The great thing about it is it's agnostic. It doesn't matter what you plug it into, it's USB.
And one last question with that, you were saying like one of the cameras at front was one of the Automate ones. Does that also seamlessly work and integrate with VX?
Yeah. So in this case, we had one presenter camera. So there's an entire line of cameras, right? So there's PTZ 20s and PTZ 12s and auto presenters and Falcons and Hawks and all of the things that encompass the intelligent video products for ours. So it was just one of our cameras. In fact, it was the camera at the very rear of the room, was a presenter camera tracker, or a tracking camera, presenter tracking camera. And so we set up the front of the room space. So you can kind of see where the little credenza and the 2 TVs are. Yep, right where John's mouse is there. We made that our presenter zone so that when our presenter walked in there, we could pace back and forth and show a typical kind of lecture, maybe even right on the whiteboard kind of thing, where an instructor would be walking back and forth in front of the classroom. And that presenter camera tracks them based on the fact that it locks onto the first face that walks into the presenter zone. And then once it's locked onto that person, it just tracks them wherever they go inside that presenter zone. And then they have to leave that presenter zone in order for the camera to stop tracking them. Or of course, you could trigger the tracking to stop from a control panel, right, if you needed to. And we recalled multiple layouts. So the cool part about Automate VX is it does also support multi-layout. So you can do a single camera shot where you're just looking at the presenter camera. You can actually even take in your content into the Automate VX system. So you create one video output for your lecture capture. So you could bring in and do a picture-in-picture. You can do multi-camera, you can stitch cameras together. So it's a pretty advanced system. You can bring into a single server, you can bring in up to 12 cameras over NDI. So there's a lot of flexibility there as far as bringing in cameras and setting up those systems. So if you're thinking about a camera system, best thing you could do for now until we get the full training up and running, and really the best thing you could do altogether is just reach out to your local Crestron person, and they'll probably put you in touch with one of the technical directors, and we'll walk you through all the different options. But it's everything down from a single camera up to, I've had flexible divisible spaces that are 4 or 5 cameras of space going into multiple servers, and then we're doing divide and combine and all kinds of fun, crazy stuff like that. So it's a pretty great system from there.
Yeah, the
Awesome,
other thing I
thanks.
thought I'd add real quick is we've been talking a lot with the One Beyond about the camera experience you want, or the faculty wants, or even the students want. There's 3 main technologies that we have on it, are the group framing, the speaker tracking, and the presenter tracking. And just real quick, in case that's not completely clear, or that's more the way we see these terms as otherwise, group framing, most people know it's part of the Genius framing on other manufacturers and so on. I'm the only one in the room and the camera zoomed in on me. Somebody else walks in, it zooms back a little bit, gets the 2 of us, 3 other people join the meeting, and it gets all 5 of us. That's fine. But again, that's not something you'd use in the classroom by any stretch. The speaker tracking and the presenter tracking are the other 2 I think it's good to delve a little bit into. Speaker tracking, the nice thing about that is if I'm talking, the camera's gonna shoot my face, so to speak, or me in the room. And then when somebody else starts talking, Ken starts speaking, it does an immediate cut. There's a short delay of like maybe a second or 2, and you can adjust that, I think. And then it'll cut to a close shot on Ken, which is nice. It's a little bit more of a higher production value, I feel, but it also doesn't make anyone dizzy or feel weird with the camera panning and tilting and zoom to go from me over to Ken, who may be 15 or 20 feet away or something like that. So speaker tracking is a different kind of experience than the group framing. And then the final thing, presenter tracking, is where you do actually get to denote or choose an actual area of frame. And then like Ken said, it locks on. So that may be a wider shot of the whole front of a classroom, of an auditorium or a tiered classroom or a lecture hall, where the professor could pace back and forth because maybe she doesn't feel like it needs to go right on close. Or this wider shot that can include the whiteboard as she's making notes or writing. So I wanted to just throw that out there in this discussion, because I feel like as we're thinking about and talking about the new normal or whatever, distinguishing between the experience that's wanted is one of the top priorities for everyone here. And even the idea that we don't know maybe enough yet what questions to ask the faculty to make sure we give them the right experience, or to equate the right experience that they want with a price tag, which may be the more important thing. Because on one hand, Ken, you're nodding yes, like you said, you can feed 12 cameras in, you can make it to an incredible space, whatever, as far as production value. And obviously you have the price tag pop up with that. So I just wanted to throw that out there and go through that briefly, or not too briefly, but thank you.
So the one thing that I will say too about the auto tracking camera is it's kind of 2 cameras in one. So there is a wide angle tracking lens in the base of the camera as well, and you can actually take 2 outputs out of the camera. One of the outputs is the auto presenter camera that's cropped in. And the second output is the wide shot that the actual software is seeing. So you can actually do a full wide shot of the room and do the presenter output at the same time. Dustin, I see your question in chat. Do we ever anticipate incorporating NVX technology into One Beyond product line to simplify installation for network-based distribution? So it's something we're taking a look at. I wouldn't say there's any commitment from this standpoint. The One Beyond cameras support HDMI out. So if I wanted to pair them with NVX, especially with the new wall plate that we have coming out, the NVX wall plate, that's an easy add. But the cameras themselves also support NDI, which is a nice protocol. Yeah, NDI does a little bit of compression and things like that, but from a quality standpoint, the NDI is there. So we're not I don't want to speak for engineering, but it's not a priority on the roadmap because there are a couple of paths there, but it is something they're looking at.
There's one other one, Ken, and then we can come back to the questions, but I want to make sure we don't take too long before we come back. What version of NDI is running on these cameras?
That's a great question that I don't know the answer to. I believe it's the HX, but
Yeah.
I will find that. I'm almost positive it's HX, but I will go find that out for sure.
And then he did throw in a follow-up question, Dwight. Thank you. If NVX, which version? So when you're
Yeah.
double checking that it's HX, or excuse me, if it HX, which version of HX? Then if you can, we'll find out what version.
Dwight, if you want to private message me your email address, I'll get that answer for you and email it back. But I don't know that one off the top of my head. I'll have to ask the engineer.
And then let's jump back to my presentation. Sorry, and jump to the next slide. Okay. Yeah, this is a new item too.
Perfect. Yeah. So for those of you that attend masters or have seen some of the masters presentations, you'll know that USB is both close to my heart and the bane of my existence. So I did a masters presentation last masters on USB, and as part of that, we talked about signal paths and signal chains and how to actually maximize your USB designs. And then shortly after, we released these active USB 3.0 extension cables, and they're great problem solvers. Just wanted people to be aware they are hybrid cables, so they are fiber for data, and then there's some copper in there to transmit the power as well. And they're in a couple of different flavors: 25 foot, 50 foot, 100 foot, 150 foot. Great plenum rated cables. These are really, really good for USB 3.0 cameras. You know, anytime you need to do some extension, and maybe you don't have the physical real estate to put in a large transmitter and receiver, you do have to be careful with them because they're fiber-based cables. So you got to be careful when you pull them through. And that's always been my, yep, you're good. That's always been my my fear. I worked for an installation company, a dealer, for many, many years before joining Crestron, and I've seen many a technician break a cable especially using fiber cables. But if you're careful with them and put them in correctly, these can be great problem solvers. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that we started selling these, because we didn't. We didn't do a big product announcement or anything like that, but it's a great way to solve some of your issues from USB. They are backwards compatible with 2.0, because if you understand how the connectors work, you know that they have to be backwards compatible, which is great. So great little problem solver I wanted you to be aware of. They're live, they're available now. You can go to the site and see them.
Yep.
Thanks, John. Here's another great little product that we haven't done a full marketing announcement on yet, but I thought it was best that we talk about it on here, because it is a great solution given the number of Dante endpoints that we're seeing now out there, and the kind of the thought process of designing around audio over IP. So a lot of the modern spaces that I've been designing with and working with are using IP protocols to get audio, right? We've been doing that with video for a while, but people are starting to embrace the idea that things like Dante are here to stay, and it can simply simplify the installation of your audio systems. So for those of you that have used the AmpX 300, which is a standard analog amplifier, it's a really flexible amplifier. It's a total of 300 watts divided up into 4 channels, and you can kind of break it down based on your needs. So we've got this new model that is the DM-NAX Amp X300, which is the same power base as the X300 analog amp, but it adds digital capability. It adds audio over IP. So this will bring in Dante. It will bring in AES67. So you have the ability here to bring in those audio sources over the network and then broadcast them back out. There's also a nice little DSP built in there. So you've got 4 analog inputs as well as the AES67 inputs. And there's some basic EQ, compression, gating, some basic DSP on the box as well. And of course, the big thing for us is that this is not only a low Z amplifier, but it's also a high Z amplifier. So we're supporting 70 volt on this amplifier as well, which is kind of a big deal for classroom-based designs. The vast majority of voice reinforcement systems that we're seeing are 70 volt. So great little addition to the audio product line that we've got out now. So you can order these. And again, it's 4 channels, but you can divide it up if you need to do some bridging, or you need extra power, or just even a single channel out and get all 300 watts on a single channel out. You can do that as well. But great little problem solver to work with both NVX systems. So if you've got NVS based video design in your rooms, thank you, John. So you've got the ability here to just kind of pull that audio off of your NVX designs. So one of the best ways that I like to design these systems is just do simple audio follows video, right? So whatever NVX stream is being routed to my display, I'm then going to send that corresponding audio back out over AES67, and my amp can decode that and make it part of my sound system that's in there. It becomes very, very flexible from that standpoint. So great little addition. Probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think there's more versions in the works of amplifiers like this. That's probably more than what I should say, but we've got some more products in the works that you might see later on.
Nice.
By far one of my favorite things that we showed at ISE this year is NVX as a software. And we showed this in a couple of different flavors. So I'll talk about both. The cool and impressive one from a flashy standpoint was the 8K video wall that we put up. And the idea behind this is there are 2 versions of NVX software that are set to release. And this is software that is part of an NVX system, but it runs on your Windows PC. So you install software, we license that software on your PC, and it generates the NVX video streams onto the network using the LAN port of the PC that you're on. And this is going to come in 2 different varieties. The variety that you see in this slide here is what we call GPU based, meaning it uses the graphics card in the PC to generate multiple streams. So in this case, we had 4 4K streams coming out, and we had those streams out to 4 different displays, creating this elongated digital signage wall. And that's really part of where we see this software going, at least at a GPU level, creating custom digital signage, custom content into larger video walls and things of that nature. But again, it's multi-stream out. So you can, you're effectively picking a desktop and you're creating a desktop and sending it out over software, which is GPU based. Kind of what I see is what may be the more widely adopted version of the software is CPU based, meaning I'm going to have a version of the software that doesn't use the GPU in the device, it uses the CPU in the device. So if I have an 11th gen i7 is where we're going to start at, just so those of you that are doing the math. So if I have an 11th gen i7 processor, I'll be able to do a single stream encode or decode on my Windows-based machine at launch. So I'll have the ability here to generate that NVX stream. So most of you are taking, a standard in-room PC and putting an NVX transmitter at that in-room PC and then decoding it at the display. Well, we're removing a single box, right? You can buy an NVX license and just put that license on the PC. And I think this is great from a standpoint of one of the challenges that I always face in education is I don't have a ton of real estate to put hardware in my lectern or at my teacher's desk or something along those lines. And even just a single NVX encoder, sometimes is hard to fit in those spaces, and I need more space. And so this is a great little solution for that, as well as a decoder. So let's say I'm doing lecture capture off of a PC. I've just got some sort of, whatever lecture capture I'm using. I can decode that NVX stream. Maybe I've got content coming from a laptop or from, somewhere else, or I've even got a camera that is plugged into an NVX device. I can decode that on the machine and use that as my recording device as well. Again, giving up some of that real estate in lieu of a software license, which I think is a great little addition. So we see a lot of those solutions for in-room PCs might switch over to NVX as a software. So I think that's very, very promising.
Yeah, and one of the applications we've got is we had this set up at ISE, right?
Yeah, so some cool things happened in this, and these pictures don't do it justice. I should have taken more, professional photos, but these are just our booth renderings that I wanted to show you. So we built an operations center at ISE, and we had the ability to do multi-input sourcing. We had a big touch interactive 65-inch display, as well as a video wall and multiple monitors there. And this was to simulate an operations center, command and control, security, NOC, something along those lines. And we highlighted a couple of different technologies here. The first thing we highlighted was NVX as a KVM. So for those of you that didn't see the announcement, NVX now supports KVM keyboard switching. So I can program in hotkeys on my keyboard that is connected to my NVX and do video switching off of hotkeys, which is great from an operations center standpoint. A little bit of training for your users, and not everybody has to have a touch panel at their workstation. They can just do some hotkey switching if need be, which is great. Of course, we'd love to sell you those touch panels too, but let's save some money and put money where it belongs instead of extra panels at every station. So we've got that. But one of the coolest things that we did show here, and for those of you that watched Joe's broadcast, he had his little Easter egg in here as well. But so we showed for the first time NVX doing multi-stream decoding. And so what we were able to do is have a single NVX unit decode 4 separate video streams and show them on a single monitor. And that is a feature that we are working on. I would call it alpha at this point. So no, I don't have a date as to when that's going to be released. No, I don't have pricing for when that's going to be released, but engineering was able to make that work. And we were able to kind of show it off a bit at ISE and show multi-windowing on that particular device. So some great features that are coming out of the NVX team as far as the feature sets that they're adding, right? And all of these feature sets they're adding on the original devices that were purchased many years ago. The team just keeps upgrading those because they're based on an FGPA technology, right? So all we have to do is update the software and you get your updates for free. I mean, we're on version 7 of NVX firmware, and we just keep adding features. Going all the way back to the initial release of the 350s, we keep adding features to those. So some great stuff that's coming out of that NVX team as well. So NVX is a software, multi-windowing is on the roadmap because, obviously we showed that. Keyboard control using KVM. So NVX being able to switch USB and audio and video. We're building this entire ecosystem around that, right? So we've got NAX for audio, we've got NUX for USB, and then of course NVX for the video portion of that. So a lot of great ecosystem stuff happening across that entire product line. And the team's doing a great job adding newer features to that set as well. And the new NVX wall plate, which is still on the roadmap. And having a nice 2-gang version encoder there to be able to encode at a wall plate is a much needed product and can't be released soon enough. So we're excited about that one. We did show that at Infocom last year, and we're excited to get that one out as well. So no, I don't have a release date. I'm sure that's a question, but I don't have an official release date yet. But I am just as excited as you are for that to be released.
Quick question on that wall plate. Do you know, will it also provide like power up to 100 watt or something?
I think at initial launch, the one they're initially launching, the answer is no, because they're trying to get the PoE to PoE plus is where they're trying to get the PoE on that power.
Okay.
And so I won't have the additional power overhead. They are looking at it, but heat is an issue. Anytime you add that amount of power, heat becomes an issue. And so the initial version that we're going to launch will not have that type of power from a charging standpoint. I'm sure that's why you're asking, right? Being able to charge.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
charging. We were
Yeah.
looking at a few that do that, like even just a 30 or something. I know that's
Yeah.
the problem with PoE.
Yeah. I don't anticipate when they release it that it'll actually have charging capabilities on it. Although we do have some new, I didn't put it in this deck, but we did show it at ISE. We've got some new DM Lite endpoints that also have 60 watts of charging in them as well. So if your design criteria is I want it to charge as well, you could always do like the DM Lite wall plate into an E760, right? So
Yeah,
you could take that and have that charging capability and go from there.
awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, great question. Let's see. Design database. Yeah. So John and I wanted to talk about this real quickly, and I'm happy to talk you through it live as well. But these are this is a resource that not everybody is aware of, and so I wanted to make sure that at least on this event, I walked you guys through this. So the design database, John was nice enough to put a QR code in there for us. Thank you, John. This is a design resource that you can use at Crestron.com that has example spaces. And the idea here is you can look for you can look for a vertical, or you can look for a solution. So you can say, I want to do something based off of the education vertical, or I want to do something based off of NVX or Air Media. And what we'll give you is sample designs and a equipment list. So having that equipment list there, basically gives you your bill of materials to go through and have that design there, and it gives you line diagrams, right? So you've got some basic line diagrams to get started with, and you can use that from a budgetary purpose. So if you're a Crestron A+ partner, it'll have your A+ part. There's MSRP part pricing on those as well, so you can see the MSRP. And then, of course, you can go back through and request an official quote through your Crestron rep that can give it to you at A+ pricing as well. But it's a resource that I think gets underused. I talk about it a lot in the master's presentations that I do, where people can go look at these design resources and start out. And it's just a great place to get you started from a reference standpoint. Sometimes you're just kind of looking at an empty space going, okay, well, what are the 5 different ways that I can do this? Well, design database is a great way to get you started and spark some of those ideas. So wanted to make sure that people knew that that was there. And if you're interested, I can take in a deeper dive of it, but those are, that's a great resource for you to have.
And let's
and then Pro Portal.
Yeah.
John, do you want to take that one, or you want me to take it?
Oh, I mean, I'll mention it real quick. We've been, obviously over the last couple of years with supply chain issues, trying to figure out ways to make it simpler for our schools and partners to find out what they can get and when. So if you're logged into our website, there's a brand new item. If you scroll down just a little bit on the homepage, it's called the Pro Portal. It's called a Pro Portal because we're going to add several aspects to it. You can, I believe, on down the line, they're going to do things like keep track of any training that you've gone through, and again, check this lead time that we're doing. And then there's, I think, multiple other things, or maybe even ways to check status on, orders and so on. But they're going to roll out a lot more. What it's doing right off the bat is once you're logged in, you can just go down to this check it out button and hit that, and it'll bring up a page that looks like this, and start typing a part number in, and there you go. It'll say, I put in AM just to show people. I know that's a little small, sorry. But, then it starts to list the part numbers that have AM in them and whether they're available now, or if they have a delay on them or some type of future shipping date. So if you started to plan for a new project, or if you're upgrading rooms, or if you're, trying to create a new design, jump into the Pro Portal and check out the product availability sheet and or search function, and it'll allow you to go through any of that as well. And actually, just as a side note to that, and to wrap up too, we are really getting some good news on from our suppliers on the different chips and components that have really the lead times have stretched out a really long way. So while we're not making announcements quickly, you'll start to notice if you go into this product availability function that some of the lead times are starting to move up, and a little bit more of encouraging news. So.
And I wanted to highlight both of those back to back, right? Because it's a great way from a design perspective, from a solutions perspective, to go look at the design resource database and look at the products that are potential from a design standpoint, and then be able to jump over to the pro portal and see, okay, well, what out of that design is readily available, and you can kind of look back and forth between those two things and figure out, especially for those, oh, by the way, the dean says we have to get 15 conference rooms up and running by next month, right? I know everybody faces those challenges where all of a sudden, projects land in your lap and you've got to get something done in a hurry. Those two tools can help you design those two things. And then of course, folks like myself are always happy to help you with those designs as well. Because we want to make sure, and we have the ability to go, hey, you know what, you're not going to get that in time, but you can get these 5 products in time, and we can make that solution work.
Yeah, think about some alternates there. So I think that's what we were covering. We were trying to cover, a little more formally, but I guess we'll end the presentation there. Aaron threw a question in here.
Oh.
On the NAX, is there a USB output?
There is not a USB output. It's a great question. So there's not a USB output there. Those two chipsets don't meet inside the device. So that's interesting. But that is something I could take back to the team and take a look at. Now, because it is AES-67, if you had like a Dante virtual sound card or something like that running on the PC, you could route it that way. So there's nothing officially on the box, but you could still certainly route it that way.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good idea too.
Yeah.
And then, do we have any other questions? I mean, we can open it up to anything that anybody would like to throw out there. And I think there's a little built-in buffer time, but any other questions or topics that anybody wanted to bring up? And I've got a few too, real quick, just in case. Quick show of hands if we is there a way, can we do the hands? Are you able to do the reaction? Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Thumbs
Yeah, you
up
can do
or
reaction.
something. Yeah. So I heard us talking a little bit in the lobby about esports. You give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you guys are doing esports, or if your school's already created an area of it. I see Greg. Thanks, Greg. And Ryan. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Ray kind of was that a maybe, or
That's
Raul?
a maybe.
I'm sorry, Raul was maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a maybe.
Okay. And then Daniel, thanks. So
good.
We I feel like there's still a ton of talk, a ton of buzz, not just still, but I know that esports is a big topic, and I'm thinking and hoping it'll be a way for the AV technology managers to really either help out where they're needed, or even insert themselves a little bit, to the extent that we know all the gear that needs to go into these places, as far as routing around the signals and giving the users the experience they want. So we have in that design database, for instance, a couple of example designs there, as well as some different great case studies. Somebody mentioned UNCG. I don't think Larry Darling chimed in, but that was one of his little babies, kind of. And so University of North Carolina, Greensboro, we've got a case study on esports. And I think, let's see here. Not I think, we've got another one, let's see here, on St. John's, and maybe So there's a few on there. If you wanted to look at them, maybe just check it out. And then even if you wanted to say, hey, could you guys put me in touch with them so I could see it or ask about it, whatever, we'd love to do that.
Well, and shameless plug for our host, right? So I happened to be on his campus last week. I don't want to steal any thunder, but they may or may not have been recording on there for a new campus study that's coming out. So
Yes, Joe's
esports lab. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, got some more esports coming out too.
yeah.
So esports is good, and anybody else share any experience, wisdom, or whatnot, even thoughts, questions on the types of camera experiences people want or expect in hybrid? Are you finding multiple camera setups? Are you finding, that the professors are doing switching between cameras, or this is just way too complex and they're super afraid of messing with the technology?
So we do have a lot of our kind of hybrid events where it'll be, teachers speaking about sessions. So not necessarily classroom stuff, but teachers in kind of more conference settings. They're wanting kind of like that owl experience where it's individual shots, but in a pro variant. And, there's tons of people right on the cusp of bringing that solution out. The problem is it's like, you get to kind of the One Beyond solution where it gets, really expensive to try to recreate that. So trying to find a middle ground pro variant of that is a challenge. Because to me, I mean, I don't like supporting the owls in any way because they're very prosumerish, at best, and not enterprise in any way. So we would much rather have a more pro solution. We keep getting asked that. It's I don't know why, but for some reason, I don't know, maybe their marketing is doing a great job of getting to the end users, but tons of people keep wanting this individual kind of framing solution.
So a little bit of feedback on that. It's not, I would say the quality is still needs a little bit depending on where you're looking at from the room. But if you have a dedicated Zoom Room system, Zoom Room is now doing this gallery view where it'll actually find the faces and create a window for each individual person. The issue that I see with that is the distance from the camera to the face that you're framing. A lot of the times that can get grainy, especially in a large classroom kind of style. Because you're so far away from the sensor and it's trying to crop you in there. But that can be, at least for your smaller rooms, that's an easy feature to turn on in Zoom Rooms where each person gets their own, it's a single camera, but each person gets their own individual frame in there. So that's a feature set of Zoom Rooms. Zoom is also starting to support multi-stream as well. So taking multiple camera streams in and then showing them in a kind of a picture-in-picture way as well. So that's there. I did want to go back, Rodrigo, I didn't want to ignore your question. Going back to the auto tracking system, has the support model changed for the One Beyond line? If I'm understanding your question correctly, no, the support model has not changed from a Crestron perspective. It might be a slightly different from the before Crestron. Sorry, I'm reading your question live. I shouldn't be doing that. I think I'd rather keep this support model as needed from One Beyond. Okay, yeah. So if that's the question you're asking, yes, we are training end users on how to do that. So one of the reasons why this acquisition happened from a One Beyond standpoint is they wanted to have a much larger user base that was out there. And of course, as you grow that market and that vertical, you have to have a large enough support team to have appropriate support across the entire industry out there. And with a market base the size of Crestron, it's kind of untenable for us to be the only people that know how to do that. So there are training programs in the works. I teased the first design half. So the plan will be we're going to have a designer, meaning I have the ability to design those systems. And then I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, and I'm going to say it anyway. Those of you that know me know that I leak way too much stuff. And then we're going to have an engineer track as well, where we're going to actually teach you how to commission the Automate VX systems, just like we teach our ATSG folks and our commissioners today. So as end users, you'll be able to achieve that certification and do the support yourself. Of course, we'll still be here, and we're still here to help you guys. If you need our help, our pro services team will help you do that. But you'll have the ability to get that training and those certifications yourself. So yes, in that matter, the support is actually is changing because we want you guys to be able to be self-sufficient if you want to be. I think that answers your question. Okay, let's see if they got a couple more.
Well, we've got one because I wanted to bring it up. You know, I was asked, you know, or someone mentioned that they were feeling under pressure from their CIO and VP to look at other alternatives that are not Crestron because they've got some late projects that we haven't delivered gear on. And, you know, but then it finishes up with, is it safe to assume the days of building a classroom space inside 6 months are still several years away? And I wanted to encourage you and say, no, you shouldn't assume that the days of building classrooms in just a couple of months or less are still a couple of years away. Right now, we do still have some products that are 9 months out, even close to 52 weeks. That should be the cap, and we are seeing positive movement back down. So I do think that we'll see a fundamental shift in the amount of stock and just the types of just-in-time manufacturing that everybody's been used to in the past, in the decades past. But I'm also confident and comfortable with the fact, especially Crestron, where we often carry 200 million, give or take, dollars worth of inventory in stock. No, I think once we get past the supply chain issues and the supply shortages, at the massive quantities that are needed, we'll be back down to regular or close to it. Stock to a few weeks, I think, is a reasonable expectation, less than a year away. So I just wanted to try to reassure you. Also talk to us about if there are any possible ways to work around the back end part of your system that you have standardized, where keeping the UX and the UI and the front end the same for the professors and the faculty. So, you know, in other words, are you open to the possibility that the 7-inch touchscreen or 10-inch touchscreen stays the same as the UI, but they don't realize that it's a 6x1 switcher or 6x2 switcher instead of a DMPS that goes out and sends the signals and routes and so on. So I'm hoping that we'll hear and provide even more positive news, but jump into the Pro portal and check the availability status on items, and be sure to reach out to your Crestron, you know, person, or Ken, Box, or I. I'm going to throw our emails in here right now real quick, just so anyone has them. And then we'll put you in touch with the right person if we don't answer directly ourselves.
I did get a couple of questions real quick, direct questions about Zoom Room support on our touch panels. We have a couple of online answer IDs up about that. Yes, Zoom is deprecating an older version of Android, which is going to hinder support for our 60 series panels, but it will not impact our 70 series panels. And so I think it was Michael that asked that question. Michael, if you go to our support site, so if you go to support.crestron.com, look for answer ID 1001819. And actually, I'm just going to throw that in chat if you're looking for more information on that, instead of deep diving into it, because I don't want to, we're going to get close on time here. So it will potentially affect your 60 series panels, but not your 70 series panels, I think is the question you're asking me. Let's see, Ryan, odds of A+ partners being able to buy at least software licenses direct from Crestron. That is a regular ask. I don't have an official position on that. So we talk about that all the time internally, and it's always up for debate, is what I can tell you. No official.
I'm a big proponent of yes, and I'm trying just to get them to understand. But you know, we have to, you know, make sure that we do it in the right way, in the simplest way. But I don't know.
We understand the logistics behind the ask, and there are many of us that are not opposed to that, but those decisions are made well above our pay grade as well. So we'll continue to ask the question for you.
We'll wrap up. I think just because, we're at the hour anyway, but thank you so much for being here. Thank you for, giving us some time and listening to our presentation today, but also thanks for being part of such an amazing group, that HETMA is. We have this dynamic with one or two other groups and industry groups, but it's always just incredible to see how the education partners get back together and want to share ideas and struggles and tips and traps. And it's always thrilling. So thanks for being part of this. Reach out to myself or Ken Box for anything you need. I'm going to try to be on more of the breakouts today, as well as the main sessions, and love to see everyone there. So thanks. Appreciate the help, Aaron. Have a wonderful
Absolutely.
day.
Thank you so much, John and Ken, for joining us. And everybody, make sure that you return to the lobby and join us for the lunch where we are featuring some of our HETMA approved products. And also stick around for the rest of the day. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.